So when the ref stopped it, my whole left side was kind of shut down, like kind of went numb, which was scary. But I was like, okay, maybe I can get this back.
Download the AllStar app. Make your picks for UFC fights, challenge your friends, level up and win prizes. Link in description. Get it now. Cody, let's the elephant in the room. Let's talk about it, man, right away and get it out the way. The last fight against Jacob Malkoun. Take us through what happened after, you clearly was elbowed in the back of the head. What were you thinking? What were you feeling at that time?
So like it was more. So the elbow in the back of the head was pretty blatant, and it obviously got the stoppage. But I felt like I got hit in the back of the head more than that. When I went back and watched it, definitely confirmed like was getting hit in the back of the head multiple times. Um, So when the ref stopped it, my whole left side was kind of shut down, like kind of went numb, which was scary. But I was like, okay, maybe I can get this back. I just felt like maybe it's a stinger, whatever. And then my next thought was, fuck, man, I don't like if I can stand up for sure. I can stand up and continue to fight, but like I'm not gonna be. I might be at 70% of what I'm capable of doing. And Jacob Matsukun's a tough dude. It's not like an easy fight. Uh, I'm like, I'm going to stand up at 70% in front of this dude, and he's going to have an opportunity to put me away or beat me. Last fight on my deal, and I'm not even going to be able to showcase like what I'm capable of because of an illegal strike. You know what I mean? Like people get rocked in fights all the time, but why should I be at a disadvantage because you broke one of the 5 rules of MMA? And broke it multiple times. And I didn't know if it was going to be a no contest. I didn't know if it was going to be a disqualification. I never asked that. I was never like, hey, what happens if I don't continue? I didn't give a shit about that. I just knew I could not represent myself moving forward from that strike in a way that I would be happy about or that I felt was fair. And so I felt like the most fair thing to me was to call the fight. I didn't know if, like I said, didn't know if it was going to be a win for me, didn't know what it was going to be. And then my next thought was like, okay, we'll call this fight. We'll just run it back. When I'm healthy, we'll run it back. And then it ended up being a disqualification. That's out of my control. That's not up to me. So, obviously there was a lot of blowback. There was a lot of hate. But the other thing, man, is I've seen just as much hate for guys that do continue and then they get knocked out. And it's like, what an idiot. Why would he do that? He was compromised. So, like, you're never going to win, right? It's a no win situation. Nobody was more frustrated with that than me and Jacob Malkoun. Those 2 people were the most frustrated with that whole thing. I feel for Jacob Malkoun, but at the same token, like, you broke the rules, like I didn't put you in a position where you had to break the rules. So, and the other thing people were saying, I saw a lot of was like, you were getting dominated. I'm like, man, we were 4 minutes into the fight. I won the first minute. He won the next 2 minutes. Who knows what's going to happen in that fight? It's not, you know what I mean? Like, if anybody thinks that, like, oh, you thought you were going to lose, like, go watch my Dolce fight and then tell me that I don't think I can come back. I don't think that I can make that happen. So I was in the ambulance going to get my CT scan right after the fight. My manager texted me, Jason House. He's like, "Hey man, how are you doing?" I'm like, "It sucks." I 100% was like, the UFC's not going to re-sign me off that. I'm gonna have to go to work on the regional scene. My arm, like, I don't know what's going on with my body right now. My left side is like fucked up. I don't. So health wise, I'm like, I don't know. And then the other thing, I was like, but if the UFC's gonna keep me around, I'll run that back. Like, I'm not worried about the matchup, but we can run it back as soon as I'm healthy. Let's run it back. So that was never like a thing that I wasn't willing to do. And it was just a shitty situation. And I got a lot of blowback, and a lot of people saying, "You're a pussy, you suck, you should get out of the UFC." And then a lot worse things. MMA fans can be brutal, and like they'll attack things that have nothing to do with MMA. And like if you I feel like I've been very open with my story with my daughter and some of the struggles I've had there, and it sucks when that gets weaponized against you and in a situation that you can't control. And I'm not one of these people that's like, I don't care what anyone thinks about me. We see that, I feel like, and that's just not realistic for me. I do care. I feel like I put out a very genuine product. My brand is who I am. I let people in. I let people see the struggles that I go through, and it backfires sometimes, but I'm never going to change that. That's who I'm always going to be. And the one good thing about MMA fans, they got a short memory. So, hopefully I can go handle business here in December, and then no one will even remember that one.
Did you have to step away from like social media?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I deleted all social media off my phone. Um, I like made it so like only people I know could comment on my stuff. Because it's upsetting, man. Like no one wants to be hated, and I felt like I was getting hate, and I feel like there's people that maybe don't deserve to be hated, but like there's reasons why people hate them, and I just don't see that with me. I don't feel like I give people a reason to hate me, and maybe that's incorrect. Maybe people do have that reason, but I don't feel like I'm a bad dude. I don't feel like I cheat. I feel like I take fights all the time, no matter who, when, or where. I always say yes. And for the most part, I feel like that Cedricus fight was the worst fight of my entire career, bar none. And I feel like I get a bad rap because I didn't look good in that fight. And then the follow up fight was a DQ with some controversy. But if you look before that, even fights that I was losing, like the Hidalgo fight, you can't look at that fight and tell me it wasn't an exciting fight. And then I lay it on the line, I get in the fire. Do I make bad decisions sometimes? Absolutely. I've only been fighting for less than 6 years, and I'm on the biggest stage in the world. But I always lay it on the line, and I always come to compete. I've had some bad performances as of late, but I feel like I don't deserve to be hated. So yeah, that was tough. I definitely had to step away and realize, the people close to you are the people that matter, the people that are real with you. And it wasn't like they were like, you were right, you were made the right decision. They were just like, your safety comes first, your health comes first. Being able to be a dad and take care of your kids comes first, and fighting is very temporary, and you don't need to put yourself in a position to do more damage than you're already doing to yourself by fighting. None of it's good that we're doing to ourselves. So then to compound that with like illegal things is not great. So it just made me realize who's there, and who's riding. And the other thing is I pay attention, right? Like I'm very quiet maybe on social media. I don't post a ton, but I see what people are saying, and I see people that I thought were riding with me. They're not really riding with me, and people maybe that I was like, they've always ridden with me. They did. So I felt like that was good for me. Honestly, I feel like in the long run, it was good to kind of see what it was.
Were there any lasting effects from the shots to the back of the head?
So like I didn't get. If anyone knows me, like win, lose or draw, when I get out of that cage, I'm back in the gym within a week, like always. I was out for five weeks. Just like with getting MRIs and making sure everything was going to be okay. I had a slight tear in my spine. I don't know if it was from those strikes, but that came up. So kind of had to address that. Everything got addressed. It got cleared to get back to like training. And then kind of right as I got cleared, got news of this fight. I got news of this fight, I think like last week of October. Uh, and I was doing stuff. I wasn't like just sitting on my ass. I'd go crazy. I was doing some things, just like no real contact, and trying to keep it kosher, and moving. And then, I didn't think I'd get another fight this year. Like I said, I wasn't sure the UFC was going to re-sign me. It just so happened, this fight worked out.
Yeah, man. Shit, they resigned you, man. It says something because I know
Yeah.
you've taken short notice fights, a few of them, right?
Yeah, I
Which
think I've
fights were short notice?
so this will be my eighth fight in the UFC, and the only fights that I ever had a camp for was Dolce and Hidalgo. So six of them have been relatively short notice. I think like this one's short notice. It's 5 weeks. It's not crazy short notice, but it's short notice. And same with Trayshawn. Trayshawn was like 5 weeks as well, I think. So yeah, I've always stepped up. I've always been willing to fight. And I think, like I said, bar that last fight and maybe bar the Cedricus fight, my other 5 fights in the UFC have been exciting, win, lose, or draw. I feel like I've shown that I belong, and have had really good moments. I just have to put it together all the way.
Man, you're on the job training, man. At
Yeah,
the
absolutely. Like
highest
learning.
risks.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. I definitely feel like I'm learning on the job, and it's a lot mental. But I work on that. I have a sports psychologist that I work with, Micah. He's my dude. He's with the UFC, and I meet with him every week. And even if we're not talking about sports stuff, we're talking about life stuff, and I got a lot of life stuff. So, uh, you know, sometimes it's stepping away from the life stuff, even though I don't feel like I can or I should, and just putting it all into fighting, and then going overtime on the life when I get done with the fight. And that's something we've tried to work on a little bit.
I think fighters, they're good at balancing their training, but sometimes it's hard to balance life and the MMA. You know what I mean? It kind of bleeds
Yeah,
into
and
each
that's
other.
100%. And like I feel like this camp, just kind of realized like you can't really. I can't be the dad I need to be, and the fighter I need to be. And my wife, I'm fortunate she fought in the UFC. She gets it. it's a lot of stress on her. It's a lot of stress on us, but she kills it for me. And you know, this camp I've been fully locked in. I feel like it's one of the best camps I've ever had. Um, and a lot of that has been the imbalance. And I feel bad. I feel guilty, but you know, it's just pushing through that and knowing like, okay, there's a greater reason for this. I'm going to get a break after this. This will be my fourth fight in 7 months, so it kind of feels like we've been running red lining a little bit, and so it'll be nice to get a little break after this, enjoy the holidays with family, and just really be present and lock in with the family after this fight.
Yeah, without a doubt. Let's talk about UFC Austin, man. Not a bad turnaround. Like I said, quick. And you're facing off against Zachary Reese, undefeated prospect. Thoughts on him and the matchup style?
Yeah, man, he's good. I feel like he's very well rounded. He's one of these like newer breed guys that you know he doesn't necessarily have some crazy specialty, but he's going to be really solid everywhere. He's big for the weight class, which presents problems in itself. Um, and he's got the confidence of an undefeated fighter. You know, I've been that guy. I've been the undefeated guy who's kind of ran through everybody, and I know what that feels like. And it's a good feeling. It's a really good feeling. And he's never really met much adversity, I don't think, in his career. And you know, while that's a knock, it's also, you know, kudos to him. I feel like the biggest knock people will have against him is that he hasn't really faced great competition, but he's done exactly what you should do to the people he's fought. It's not like he's fighting these guys that aren't great and struggling. You know, he's running through them in a minute. Um, yeah, I think he's good, man. I think it's a good matchup. I think experience is important. I feel like I have a huge experience advantage, and I think that might play out. But I expect him to come out hot in his hometown in his debut. I know you know, I'll be creeping on people on Instagram. I know he's been training out in Thailand, and uh, you know, so I expect him to have some different tricks that he's coming with. I know the Hickman brothers are great coaches, so I'm sure they've taught him some things. I know the Hickmans like all the way back to my high school days. We're kind of from the same area, so yeah, I wrestled at one of the clubs that they used to help coach at when I was a young kid. So I know they're great coaches. I know they got some good things working for him, and it's his debut, so I know he's going to come prepared. But I do think experience matters. I do think I think I'm the best dude he's ever fought. I don't think there's really a question there. Maybe I mean fought Kevin Holland as an Emmy, so I won't say I'm the best dude he's ever fought. Kevin Holland's a great fighter, but that was 12 years ago. You know, in recent memory, I'm the best dude he's ever fought, and uh, I think that matters. I think he's good, but I don't necessarily think he's the best dude I've ever fought. You know, I've been in there with some real killers, and um, I think it's the first time he's really going to face some adversity, and he might come through it with flying colors, but we're going to find out for sure.
You know, you mentioned that he's going to make his UFC debut in his home state in an arena. From your experience fighting in front of the home crowd, what is the type of pressure that fighters feel?
Yeah, it's different, man. It's different. I made my pro debut on 48 hours notice in front of T-Mobile, and you know, we're always taught like it's just a fight, it's just a sparring session, it's the same as always, but it's not. And it doesn't make you do worse. It doesn't make you do better, or maybe it does, but I don't really think it makes you do worse or better. But it is different. It's something that you're having to deal with that you're not accustomed to dealing with. And in the moment, that can be hard to do. And goes for the whole week. You know, a UFC fight week is not like a Fury fight week or a LFA fight week, right? You have obligations, you have different things you have to do, and the feelings you have, especially on your first one, uh, it's unlike anything you've ever felt. And so having to kind of deal with those emotions, I think is tough, especially in your hometown. You know, there's a lot of expectation. The more people that are going with you, the more expectation. And like I said, I haven't had recently like the best run, so the expectation's even higher of like you need to run through this dude like you've run through everyone else. And you know, up to this point, I don't think there's really been anyone that has run through me, and I've fought some really tough dudes. Um, I'm just not a guy that I think is easy to run over. I think I'm tough, and like I said, I'm willing to put it on the line. So if you want to meet in the middle, we'll get after it.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Man, you always have a hell of a crew out there at Factory X. You know, what I mean, the coaching staff, the training partners. Any new faces? Any new additions to your camp?
No, not really. I got Josh. You know, it actually worked out. I mean, I'm in camp with Dustin. He's fighting 2 weeks after me.
Yeah.
He's a big, long body, good kickboxer. And then I got Josh, who's the same size as Zach, which is a great look. You know, and they do some things similarly. So I feel like the camp worked out pretty well that I got those guys with me, just because I feel like I'm getting great looks in trying to solve the puzzle of the length and some of the things that he does. And Yeah, man, Factor X is the best. I feel like one thing I feel like we really do a good job of as teammates is like if I don't have a fight, I'll watch all the film I can on whoever Dustin is fighting, and I'll try to mimic that person. And that will one does two things. It makes me better because I'm learning a new style. I'm learning to do some different things that I can add to my game, but at the same time, I'm also helping Dustin be ready for his fight. And I feel like everyone kind of takes that as their responsibility at Factory X to be good teammates, and it's part of the reason we've had a lot of success.
It seems like every time you guys fight, someone's fighting. Like it's like
Oh
almost
yeah.
like always that way, right?
Yeah, but December's gonna be a busy month, man. I'm fighting December 2nd. Chris Gutierrez just signed that main event against Song Yadong, and I think that's gonna be a great fight. And it's a tough ass fight, but Chris is really talented. It's gonna be a good fight. And then Dustin's on the same card as Brandon, trying to close out the year with the first world title at Factory X. And the team's pretty excited. I think we're all a lot. There's gonna be a big contingency of us out there in Vegas for the card, and it's gonna be good, man. I'm excited to close out the year strong. And there's always that good little like 3 week break at the end of December to kind of just enjoy finishing
Yeah.
out the year on a high note. So I think we're all looking forward to that.
Yeah, incredible. What do you see in this fight, man? Like, you I don't want to say you want to erase the memory, but you do kind of.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just being patient. I feel like one thing that I've struggled with is I'm a fast starter, and it's a good thing, man. I've put people on skates early in fights, but it's just being patient and kind of letting the game come to me a little bit instead of trying to hunt it. Um, the fight can go 15 minutes, and I can win a decision. That's definitely a thing that can happen, and I have the tools to do that, and I don't have to go get a finish. If you look at I have 9 wins, uh 8 wins. I got that DQ win, but 8 wins and 7 of them are finishes. And I find a finish. I just have to be patient and let it come to me. I'm not the guy that hasn't been to the second round. I'm not the guy who hasn't been past 2 or 3 minutes or whatever crazy stat Zach has where he's never got into deep waters and things like that. And I feel like he doesn't necessarily really know where he's at when that happens. He can't. He's never been there in a fight. He might be there in training, but it's different. So my intention and my goal is to put him there, and we'll find out where he's at because I've been there. I know what it's like to kind of take an ass whoop and then have to come back. I know what it's like to be in deep waters, and I feel like I can thrive there against a guy who's never been there. And that's kind of my goal. Be patient, let it come to me, and kind of just use some of the advantages I feel like I have in there to find a finish, but it doesn't have to be a 1 minute finish or a 2 minute finish. It could be a finish at 13 minutes, or it could be a decision and I could win. I just think being patient is my big goal for this fight.
Going back to the contract, right? You signed a new deal. Even though fighters have a new contract or have fights left on their contract or fighting out their contract, it seems like everybody's fighting for survival, man. In
Oh
a
yeah.
certain, do you feel like a lot of fighters have like the last fight mentality now in the UFC because it's that way?
Yeah, definitely. I just signed a 4 fight deal, but I know what it is. I know it's a 1 fight deal. If you don't go
Mhm.
perform, all that 4 fight deal means is that the UFC. I can't go anywhere but the UFC. The UFC can get rid of
Mhm.
me whenever they want, uh, and that stinks. But it also is like just know what it is. And if you know what it is, it kind of puts your back against the wall, which can be a good thing. So
Mhm.
I know it's a 1 fight deal, and if I win, then it's a 2 fight deal, and if I win, then, you know what I mean. So I feel like it's not a bad mentality to have.
Mhm.
It is stressful. It is a stressful life to be like, man, what like my job security is not there. There's some guys that have it, but it takes a while to get there. It takes a long run of success to really get there. And even then sometimes it's not enough. Like who was that? Some girl just got cut. She was a top 5 girl and
Talia Santos, yeah.
yeah, and I don't know what the deal was at. Maybe they were having contract
Mhm.
negotiations and they went, but that's what I'm saying. Like no one's really safe. Anybody could get cut.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just knowing what it is and knowing that hey, this is a 1 fight deal. If I win, then I'll get another one. So I
Mhm.
think just knowing that is important.
Definitely. And hey, are you going for the Dagestani look, or is that what
No,
is
but this is
that?
all this is all getting shaved off. It's a little cold out here. This is all gonna be gone. The no mustache neck beard is not for me, just for a little bit.
I was like, is that a clue? Like, is he
Yeah.
telling us something? Like, is he moving to Dagestan soon, or
Yeah,
what's
I'm
going
coming
on?
out I'm coming out all wrestling for 15 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. USADA, man, they're about to bounce, man, for the UFC. Well, the UFC is kicking them out. Like, what do you think of what they've done, and were your experiences good with them?
Yeah, I never had a bad experience. I've heard people had bad experiences. I guess maybe like one time they showed up like when we first had Kingsley and or
Mhm.
not first, but she was young and we had put her to sleep and they woke her up and it was a whole shit show. But I had a good dude and he was like, "Man, I won't do that again. My bad." Uh, but yeah, I mean, I feel like they're just doing their job, man. I'm pretty easygoing. I know it's not easy. They probably have to see 10 people in a day, and the way it makes sense is to hit me at 6 a.m. and then continue about their day. People like take it personally, like, "Why are you at my house at 6 a.m.?" I'm like, I just feel like they're trying to do their job. I feel like they did a good job. I feel like they kept the sport relatively clean. I mean, as clean as you could keep it, maybe. I don't feel like it's ever going to be 100% or even 80%. I feel like they did it as good a job as you could do. You know, I've heard some things of like the foreign fighters is different, right? Like they have like third party testing, so that's a whole different thing. It's not even like USADA was doing all the testing. Like USADA was processing the test, but they weren't even doing all the tests. Um, so it's it's a flawed system. I think they did the best they could. We'll see what's up with this new one. The more they tell me how great the new system is, the more I'm gonna believe that it's probably not that great. If you're trying to sell me that hard on it, I'm pretty skeptical. I'm also skeptical. I'm not gonna question anyone's integrity. I don't even know the dude, the FBI dude or whatever that's gonna head it up,
Mhm.
but I do know he's a black belt out of American Top Team, and to me that just is like, how can
That's weird.
this? How can this? Yeah, like I don't care if he's has the most integrity in the world, like how can this be unbiased and fair? And I'm sure they'd be like, well, he has the most, he helped catch Osama bin Laden. I'm like, well, that doesn't really have anything to do with drug testing in the UFC. Like you're just telling me accolades that don't matter much. Uh, it is what it is. I feel like the sport will be as clean as the sport's going to be, and there's not much I can do to control that.
Mhm.
I will be clean. That's what I know.
Yeah.
And we'll see. It'll be interesting. We'll see. Because I felt like with USADA, there was a very clear drop off in some fighters, not just in their performance, but also like in their physique and the way they looked. And like you could very clearly tell, like, oh, you were doing things and now you're not doing things.
Mhm.
Uh, there was a clear, I feel like, distinction, but and like between like Vitor Belfort, for instance.
Oh, yeah.
Like everyone's like, look at his body before USADA, look at his body after USADA, look at his performances before and after, and it's like very clearly. So it'll be interesting to see. I feel like it won't be hard to tell if people do get back on stuff. I guess only time will tell, though. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Only time will tell. Yeah, it's like you said, those accolades mean nothing for the
Yeah,
sport, right? Like it's like
it's
you
so
telling me, like,
crazy.
yeah, I just won the world championship dart throwing contest last week, and
Yeah.
that's gonna be my, like it's like
Yeah,
what?
like it doesn't matter. Yeah, like, oh hey man, I got 3 degrees in college. Like that's great, but that has nothing to do with fighting. Like that's an awesome thing that you did. That's congratulations. I'm glad you did that. Happy you did that for the country, I guess. I don't know, but like
Mhm.
that has nothing to do with the fact that you're going to head up a drug testing program. In fact, the fact that you have no experience heading up a drug testing program is more of an issue to me than one
Yeah,
time you helped catch a terrorist. Like that's great, you're really good at that, but we have no idea how you're going to be on this drug testing thing. Like
for
it's
sure.
crazy.
Yeah, man. Well, man, December 2nd, Austin, Texas. You're gonna fight one last time this year. Enjoy the holidays. Enjoy everything, man. All the best to the family and everything. Cody, thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, brother, appreciate you. Always a good one.